Hi again, Jim Curtis, and I'm back with another Instagram Live, if you can believe it. Today is Human Garage. Has anybody heard of these guys, Human Garage? I first found them on Instagram because they were doing such amazing things with healing people's bodies, and they become a TikTok sensation, and they're growing so quickly across social media because they provide such value. And if you guys know, one of my jobs is to bring value to you. So today we're talking to Gary from the Human Garage, and I'm Jim Curtis, your head of business and brand and your community leader, your head coach here at IN. You can follow me at Jim Curtis1, and I'm gonna go see if Gary is ready. Let's see. Just bear with me 1 second. Human Garage. Okay, I just invited the crew from Human Garage. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, long time no talk.
Long time no talk. It's actually really good to see your face again. I've been watching you live quite a bit.
Yeah. So, just to introduce again for all those folks that have joined. Hi, everybody. I'm on with Gary from Human Garage. If you haven't seen them on TikTok or Instagram, that's where I found Gary and just totally captivated. And then I got the opportunity to work with Human Garage and felt my body start to change. So I wanted to bring them to the IN community because I think you're doing really important work. Gary, can you start by telling us a little bit about who are you, who is the Human Garage, and how did this come about?
How about, hey, Jim, before we do this, do you want to sync up together? Our little tradition, we sync before every meeting, how about we do that and we'll let the audience sync with us?
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so let's put our right foot over top of our left if we're sitting.
Yeah.
You can even put right ankle. Right arm underneath left armpit. Left arm on top. We do this before every live, before we eat dinner, before we drive a car even. Let's turn our head slowly to the left and our body to the right. And then we'll take 6 breaths, 3 through the mouth and 3 through the nose. 3, 2, 1 through the mouth. 2. 3. 4 through the nose. 2. 3. Awesome.
Doesn't that really change things?
It does. We do this before we eat, which is actually great that we're talking here, because if we go into our meal and we're in a sympathetic response, our body doesn't digest for 40 to 60, even 90 minutes after we start. We sit down and eat, and if we just do those 6 breaths, what we found is the body starts digesting right away. So it's super powerful from a nutritional point of view.
It really is. And that's an amazing, already providing value. I'm going to start doing that before I eat every time now, because does it have a parasympathetic response too? Because I feel calmer already.
Yeah. So what it does is the fascial maneuvers, all of them are designed in a totally twisted, which is basically a fetal position. So in a fetal position, it registers in the midbrain. The best that now there's no science behind this other than our own, but we can see it lights up the midbrain or the limbic region, which is your emotional center where your organs and your meridians work. And what it does is it takes down those 6 breaths, somewhere between 50 and 75% of your stress just in 6 breaths. We do it before meetings, or when we're in a meeting and we're getting a little bit of a conflict or something's not going the way it's supposed to.
So you mentioned fascial maneuvers. What are fascial maneuvers?
Well, to be honest with you, it's really slow motion dance at the core of it, but it uses a principle of counter rotation. It has 5 basic principles in doing fascial work, but the core one of fascial maneuvers is counter rotation. Like if you think about it, before you were to throw it, like if you're going to golf, you counter rotate. If you're going to throw a baseball, you counter rotate. It's a very adaptive position for the human body, and when we're in it and we're doing what we call maneuvers or breath sequences and holds, it balances the parasympathetic nervous system, and all of the organs start to balance right away. what it does is it's a movement process that is a philosophy of movement rather than a definition. So once you learn the basics, then you can adapt it to your own body, because there's 100% certain that my body's going to react differently than yours to every movement. And so to be able to take a set of 10 basic principles and then adapt them to yourself. And they just have a way of taking the stress out of the body. So the first 15 minutes, it eliminates between 75 and 90% of the stress in the body, which for most people, they don't ever get that. We go to sleep stressed out, we wake up and we're stressed out, and then we move through our day. And that's one of the reasons why we're so sick today.
You know, we talk about this a lot. Autoimmune is on the rise. More people are feeling stressed out and anxious. It feels as though everyone you're talking to has some kind of mystery illness, whether it's from skin to gut to IBS. You know, why do you think we are so sick today?
It's a good question. You know, when we had the clinic in Venice, California, we started doing lab tests. Now we had 10,000 active patients, which allowed us a really cool base of people to test on. And we would run tests on them that we would pay for ourselves. And so we had the ability to look at things that normal clinics or practitioners wouldn't. And we had 52 practitioners, every discipline represented there. And what we would do is we'd find that there were certain things that were kept coming in. One of them was chronic dehydration. Chronic dehydration started to really happen in 2012, 2013. And we peaked to the point it was 80+% of our patients were chronically dehydrated, which takes about 7 years to get there, truthfully. And so we were dealing with the chronic dehydration issues, but then we started looking at other issues, because when you're dehydrated chronically, what's going to happen is that all the organs are dehydrated, the fascial tissues are dehydrated. So instantaneously, your body's going to fire more adrenaline, norepinephrine, and cortisol. And so the chronic dehydration also restricts our movement. Like today, 80 and 90-year-olds don't move very well, but only a decade ago, 80-year-olds moved really well. Mm-hmm. So we've had this big change. And what we found is that we had been doing this hair follicle testing, which is the truth. I mean, I can look at all kinds of subclinical or clinical tests, but if I test your hair follicle, I know what's in your body, and it might not even show up in your blood. And that's the point. We found elevated levels of barium, strontium, and aluminum in the hair follicles of over 2,000 people from all over the world, and all different ages, all different genetic types and stuff like that. And what we looked into that and said, okay, well, that's a pretty strong sample size. Out of all 2,000 we tested, they all had elevated levels. So we made the general assumption that everybody did, and then as we tested, we found that to be true. But if we look at those elements individually, barium, it depletes the body's silica, and we're made of silica. As a matter of fact, as a child, we have more silica and less calcium, and as an adult, we become more calcified and less silica. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's just the way it is. And what we found, and to be more clear, people are trying to cure osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. You have more silica in your bones than you do calcium. And it's super important for people to recognize that an element of silica, we need silicon, selenium, and calphos in our diets, in our bodies, in order to absorb the minerals that we're taking or consuming. And if we don't have it, we stop absorbing the minerals, but then we stop absorbing the water. And then it's a cascading series of problems from there. So that's the primary reason. I mean, we have lots of other reasons, from vaccines to chemicals in the food, but that's the primary one that's causing the dehydration. And that's why I think people are so sick, because once they dehydrate the fascial tissue around the organs, it tightens up. and the fascia is emotionally sensitive too. So around the small intestine, the large intestine, the ileocecal valve, and stuff is just getting stuck inside of us. It's just a pure issue of flow and removing toxins. And it's because of external environmental issues that we're having the issue.
Gary, I want to talk more about how fascia holds emotion, because that's a subject I really love to talk about. But people are asking who we are. So because we have both our communities on here. I'm Jim Curtis from IN, and you can see me at Jim Curtis 1, but also follow IN at Nutrition School. And I'm here today with Gary from Human Garage. And we're talking about really why we're so sick, and then how to optimize our bodies. And what it's coming down to, what you're getting to, Gary, something that I'm really interested in is fascia. And what is fascia? And you and I worked on this, and we talked a lot about it. We often think that it's either the nerves or the muscles that are really moving us, but there's this idea that fascia is what it gives us agility and health and momentum. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trained as a practitioner. I learned all of the disciplines that I practiced, from chiropractic through to Chinese medicine, natural medicine. I learned them all in the field from great practitioners. And I had a lifetime of chronic pain myself, and I had spent $2.5 million trying to solve my personal pain issue over a course of 20 years, with no noticeable results, because I just kept degrading. And so when I went to look for a solution, the PhD that I had opened this clinic with, to help myself at the time, he said, "I know it's fascia, I just don't know enough about it." And that was the start, or the change in trying to understand fascia from a new way. Think about it this way. We have a belief that our brain runs the body, but it just doesn't. From my evaluation, I come from computer programming software, to be specific, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I just look at things differently. And I'm saying, well, the brain has 100 billion nerve endings, and each nerve ending or each cell is what contributes to the amount of computation power. It's kind of like more horsepower in your car. And the brain has 100 billion nerve endings, but the fascia has 100 trillion nerve endings. So the fascia is 1,000 times more connected to our environment than our brain is. So we looked at the body as a computer, and the brain is a processor, and it runs programs. As much as we deitize the brain's job simply is to identify patterns and resolve them. And it's doing math all day long. It's really good at it. Yeah. But it's balancing for all the stuff that we're not doing right. It's trying to figure out how to keep this machine moving when we're doing all these things to it that aren't right. So there's a belief that from a fascia point of view, that a muscle can move the body. But here's a simple little thing that we did. We did a nerve conduction testing. We found that it was 1.5 seconds for a nerve signal to go from the foot all the way up through the brain, through the homunculus and the cerebellum for motor control, and then down to the foot for movement. And that means if we stepped on glass, we would be 1/1000 move. But we step on glass and it's instantaneous. So we explain it medically or scientifically as a ganglion reflex, like when a doctor hits your knee and it bounces. And I said that can't be true, because if that's truthful, then every time I stepped on glass, I'd jump up like a jumping jack. But I don't. I move intelligently to safety. That means that somehow, some way, something is moving my body to safety before my brain even has the notification that there's a problem. So we hypothesized it was fascia, and we took that and we worked with it clinically for a decade trying to figure it out. But we just know that fascia is has more intuition about how to move in our environment than our brain does. Our brain needs logic and reason. Fascia is that when somebody throws something and you catch it like that.
Yes, after one of our sessions, I live in New York City, and I went down and out to do some errands, and I was coming back up in the elevator. There's 4 people in the elevator, and we're very cramped. I'm holding my house keys and 3 bags of groceries. And I'm coming up in the elevator, and I go to press the button to get to my floor, and I drop my house keys. Within a split second, like Superman, I've reached out, grabbed those keys before they even fell down to my chest. My hands were up like this. I grabbed those keys. The woman next to me looked at me and she said, "Whoa." And all I said was, "That's my fascia." And I think that response time is what we're talking about.
Yes, it absolutely is. Athletes, call it being in the zone. And what it does is basically our nervous system is designed to adapt to the environment in the world, but it gets, as we have more and more stress goes up, our ability to perceive our environment goes down. So we become slower in the response, but our brain's job is to make things normal. So we don't even notice that it's happening. It happens at the drop of a hat. That's why when we do that work with you online, all of a sudden you can see more, you hear more, your taste goes up. So all your sensory processing goes up instantaneously when fascial restrictions go down. And that's why you caught the key so fast. It's really amazing.
Yeah. And how does fascia become almost our subconscious? How do we start holding emotions in fascia? We did some work together where we were releasing my knee, and it created like a really emotional response with me. I started, I just felt almost a release of sadness. And
Yeah.
people say we hold our emotions in our fascia, and that may cause blocks. What does that mean?
Well, so we don't have emotions in our brain. Our brain tells us we have emotions. So brain is a notification that there's something going on, but we feel an emotion, and our job of our brain is to try to explain what that emotion is to make sense of it. So by the way, you hear the wind chimes going on and the birds. We're in a jungle here. We're in our retreat center in Mexico. We're staying down here for 6 months, by the way.
Great.
So you think about your brain. Your brain's job is to explain the world around you, and it looks for familiar patterns to do so. But all the feeling and emotion happens in our bodies. And if you look at Chinese medicine, we know that like anger is in your liver, desire is in your stomach, fear is in your bladder. Well, those emotions, they not only have to be recognized by the brain and then dealt with, they also have to be processed. And what the body's doing, or what we believe the body is doing anyways, is that we take everything in, we feel it. And then as we feel something, a stimulation, we attach the first thing as an emotion to it. Because that emotion is what gets the brain to say, okay, a narrative, do I recognize this? Do I not recognize this? Is it something am I safe? Am I not safe? And those are the questions that would happen. So basically we feel everything. And in natural society, or in society even 50, 60 years ago, most people got up and moved. And then most people danced. As a matter of fact, the average person 75 years ago walked 10 miles a day. Today, it's about 4,000 steps.
Yeah.
So our bodies are designed to take in emotions that we feel and move them out through natural motion. And the most organic of all the movements that we have is our breath. But if I'm fascially tight around my rib cage, I'm not even breathing properly. So, and over here is spleen, which is worry, gallbladder here, which is resentment, and I'm trapping stuff in my tissue. So we started noticing this when we were working on people in the clinic, because we would be touching areas of their body and they'd have these emotional releases, and there was no way to explain it scientifically. So we just went with it and said, okay, that's the emotion. What's your emotion you're having? And after a while, we were able to say, well, that emotion comes from this place. That emotion has a specific odor to it, a smell. That emotion has a perception that you have and that I had as a practitioner. And we started looking at the body more as an emotional body rather than a physical, math-driven, brain-dominant body.
The pain body, the emotion body. H2 water expert says this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny. Folks are asking how they can find a trainer. You can teach this yourself. Just check out humangarage.com. They have a 20-day.
Yeah, let me comment on that. So here's the first and foremost. People are looking to remove physical issues or emotional issues. It doesn't really matter because the body is involved in it. You can't remove emotional issues in the brain only. You have to move them out. And so when we're talking about removing physical issues from the body or emotional issues, we found that when people do it themselves, there's a self-empowerment trigger that happens. If I have a pain and I have to go to a practitioner to resolve it, I feel helpless. If I feel helpless, it cascades to a series of issues that happen in me. Because if I feel helpless, I don't know what to do. If I don't know what to do, now I'm scared. And it starts to cascade in the way that we relieve. So for me, I had been 20 years trying to fix my own issues, 10 years in the clinic, I thought I was perfect, but I was having practitioners work on me 3 days a week. Then the pandemic came. And as soon as the pandemic came, I had no practitioners. I'm all by myself. What do I do? And that's when the movement process came out. All that stuff that we've been doing on tables. I said, how would I do this on myself if I did this on you, Jim? And that's where the maneuvers came out of. It was basically practitioner work applied to my own body. And so what we're looking for specifically is if you can't do it yourself, if you don't want to do it yourself, you're never going to heal. Doesn't matter what it is, in my opinion. And if you do it yourself, then somebody can assist you. But if you're not willing to do it yourself, good luck on whether, even if it's a physical issue, it's just going to move from one spot to another.
So, Gary, IN is about nutrition.
Yes.
And not only the food that you eat, but also the other things that put in your body and how you feel, your mental mindset, etc.
Right.
How important is it to combine proper nutrition for healthy fascia?
Well, let me ask you a question. How many people that are in your programs, I kind of know the answer already. So how many people come into nutrition or health coaching programs that have health and digestion and movement issues?
So many of them. I mean,
Almost all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we tend to go, the reason why I became a practitioner is because I had a problem in my body. The way that I saw to fix that was a practitioner helped me, and I said, I could do that. The same thing comes with nutrition. A lot of nutritionists become nutritionists because they had to learn so much how to help themselves in their own lives that they might as well just take the next step and learn the truth about it and figure it out. If people are not moving their body, we have very little success in finding them in a better position 5 or 10 years from the date that they're having their issue. They may have temporary corrections because they change their diet, they meditate a bit more, but if they don't move the body, eventually everything comes crashing down at some point. So we believe that and first of all, as I said before, movement is life. The origin of all movement is breath, and first and foremost is almost everybody that I've ever worked with personally is not breathing properly. And it's because of the sitting in chairs and the compression and stuff like that. So it's super important for nutrition. Here's something that we noticed. As we get up in the morning, you know how you want to stretch?
Yeah.
Like stretch everything. Well, if I walk downstairs, by the time I get downstairs, my body's dealing with restrictions. Imagine my shirt's tight and I'm walking. My body's dealing with that restriction. Well, that restriction requires a sympathetic response in order for me to move. So by the time I get to my morning good old breakfast, guess what happens? I'm already in sympathetic and my body can't rest and digest properly. So we found that if you do fascial maneuvers in the morning, just a few of them, a stress reset, instantaneously, your body is no longer firing those hormones that it doesn't need to fire in order to get through that movement process to get you up and moving until you're balanced and until you're stretched out. So that's one of the things where movement is super important.
I agree. I know that from my own body. So oftentimes, from what we're doing, we're finding that people become health coaches so that they could learn this coaching technique, and then they add things into it like proper nutrition so they can create diet plans or lead people through a dietary theory. But then they add niches and specialties to it, like a knowledge of fascia or fascial maneuvers. And that's why these things seem to go so well together. And what are you seeing in terms of people becoming health coaches? I know people only get about 8 minutes with a doctor now. Health coaching is one of the fastest growing professions. Where do you think it's going for people that are interested in becoming a health coach?
Sorry again. I have a unique advantage because a lot of my colleagues and friends are practitioners of every discipline you can imagine. And I can tell you that generally the majority of them, the good ones, have moved their businesses usually off of the insurance system, and they're into more holistic health coaching opportunities. So which means that technically the reason why this works is that you see a practitioner, even if you come 1 to 2 times a week to a practitioner, you're between 1% and 3% of your week you're with that practitioner. The rest of the week you got to remember everything, do everything. It just doesn't work because all health is about changing habits. Our habits got us here. No matter what we say, it's our habits that got us here. Even if I had a bad accident, if I was perfectly healthy and I had a bad accident, my body will recover very quickly. So it's not the accident's fault. So a health coach is somebody who you talk to on a regular basis, who you have more interaction with, you have more access to. And without a health coach, I have virtually never seen anybody heal from a disease pathology without taking some sort of coaching. So I believe now with all of my practitioner friends who actually are becoming health coaches with MDs, with naturopathic, with chiropractic, I believe that health coaches and that model is the medicine, the doctors of the future. And if they're not, and for example, if you guys have been doing health coaching for a long time, not just nutrition, you've been doing health coaching, which is very specific, because nutrition is how it all works. Health coaching is, you got to deal with that person and their personalities and understand who they are and the frequency at which you deal with them. Where nutrition is very matter of fact, it's very scientific. It's take this, eat this, do this, supplement. Health coaching is dealing with the whole person, having to deal with mood swings and the ups and downs. You guys are obviously the biggest in the country, and probably not the world, in what you do. And there's a reason for it, is because you do it right. I don't find that most nutrition schools have done it right, but I find the health coaches that have come through your program that I know, they're all really good. They all have a well-rounded approach. They're all really easy to work with. And I'm not the easiest guy to work with, but the health coaches that I've had, I've actually employed nutritionists from your institute. And by far, it's a night and day difference between them coming out of IIN and everywhere else. And I applaud you for doing that, because you're taking a holistic approach to it. But I do think health coaching is the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. And don't feel badly. I often get tongue-tied over IIN as well, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Anybody on here, if you're interested in pursuing your education, if you feel a calling and you're like, I need fascial maneuvers in my life, I want to know how to be a coach so I can bring this to people along with a nutrition plan. This, all of a sudden, Gary and Jim, you have given me an aha moment of how I want to proceed and move forward in my career, my health, and my life. Just DM us here, and we'll give you all the information about the school. And we'll, just for joining this live, we'll give you a gigantic amount off tuition. I also want to talk about a couple other things, because I found it really helpful. Human Garage has a 28-day reset that's for free that you can go to the site and get. And it's starting to remove toxins so you can start to feel better yourself. But Gary, something that I really love is this power curcumin. This it made me feel better immediately. So I know that you offer that supplement, but what does it do?
So it's interesting. What it is it's a new form of pharmacology, and we have a whole bunch now. We have 2 fascial supplements that come with it, and we have more coming, including a hair regrowth formula. It's where the world of pharmacology is going, in my opinion. It's where we take an isolate. So what happens is in curcumin, you have 3 curcuminoids that make up curcumin. The third one is the one that causes the anti-inflammatory. And the anti-inflammatory that it targets, it's a heat shock protein called MSK1. And right in the cell, it turns a key and basically shuts the inflammation down at the cellular level. That's why it works within 45 minutes to an hour. And so it's a pharmacology product, but what we do is take that isolate and put it back in the origin product so that there's no side effects. Because what we're doing in pharmacology is we take that active ingredient and we put it back in petroleum. So the body can't make the connection between the active ingredient and where it came from. The body needs to have that mapping in order to understand it. So it really is, it's a medication. And in Canada, our FDA is called Health Canada. It just got approved for at a higher dose as a COVID treatment. And they're looking at it as a candidate for a COVID cure. So it's super, super powerful. What we found is that because of the inflammation, and what it's doing is targeting connective tissue, which is your fascia. So what we found is that if you get everything in your body is connected in fascia. So fascia is around all your nerves, all your glands, all your organs. It's inside the organs. It's inside the bones. We're made of fascia. We're grown out of fascia. So it releases every cell in the body that is related to fascia, connective tissue releases. So that means it takes pressure off of your blood vessels. So when you have high blood pressure, it takes pressure off your organs for organ issues or liver issues or heart issues, myocarditis and stuff like that. It takes pressure off your small intestine, so it helps you with skin issues like eczema, rashes, rosacea, or what we're having right now, which is scary, Jim, hives. We're having hives right now in I would say almost 40% of every single person we talk to has some form of hives on their body right now today. So
I know that it helped me. It helped me with inflammation. It helped me with a little bit of an autoimmune flare-up. And It also gave me energy, strangely enough. So, but people are asking questions, so I want to answer them because there's a lot of questions. If you're interested in learning how to cure yourself of these mystery illnesses and then go on to help others, and you want to get your education in that, that's where you DM at Nutrition School. DM us, say you're interested, and we'll send you all the information. If you mention you heard this on the Human Garage Nutrition School Live, then I think it's between 25 and 30. It's a lot of money off.
Yeah,
so we're doing this special.
And thank you for doing that. We have a lot of our people that are watching or will continue to watch and that are going to follow the nutrition health coaching path. And I appreciate you honoring that for those people.
You're welcome. We're happy to do it for you. Anything for Human Garage Crew, love it. Now we have a lot of people asking about the Power Cure and how to get Human Garage supplements because, guys, we don't endorse supplements, but this one I've done myself, and it is really good. And curcumin, and especially this formulation, really helped me. So I would do it with the 28-day reset that Human Garage has. But Gary, I guess you just go to humangarage.com to get that stuff?
Yeah, it's .net, but you just type in Human Garage. I don't think anybody puts anything other than the name in the search bar anymore. But just search Human Garage, and you can get to it through all of our social media. There's a link tree. We're redoing our site, but right now you can get it on our site. But more importantly is I want to tell people that we're not, first a little bit about who we are. We're a not-for-profit organization. We have 8 of us now that work full-time, but we have 0 salaries. There's clothes on our back, literally. I'm going back to Canada as soon as we're done this podcast. And I have 1 backpack. That's all I have. And that's everything I own, basically, with the exception of one suit and a couple other shirts. And so we're doing this because we feel that the world's going into the largest health crisis that we've ever seen. We feel that's happening right now and starting into next year. And we wanted, when we went through the 28-day reset ourselves, and it changed our lives, it changed our relationships. It literally fixed every single issue that I've ever had in my body. And I mean everything, and I'm not joking or kidding, I'm not even exaggerating. For those of you guys who've been around, seen my before and after photos, I don't even look like the same person after 2 years. So we want people to be able to go and do that. And everything that you need to help yourself is free of charge with Human Garage. And we've been able to have founders and donors that have helped us do that, as well as the sale of the supplements contribute to us making content and then also managing the communities behind it. We have tens of thousands of people in those communities right now. But more importantly, people can get it on our site. But I'm going to tell you right now, if people are struggling with their health issues, they can do one thing right now that will change and transform their body. They can start taking diatomaceous earth or high doses of silica right now. And the reason why is because we talked about barium and depleting our silica. That's happening to everybody. And if you're doing all the right things today, you're taking the supplements, you're doing the routines, you're working out, you're even doing fascial maneuvers. And this happens in our own community. And they're not getting the results that their neighbors are in fascial maneuvers. And almost every time, it's because their body's deficient in silica. And the clinic, what we did is we had all these cases, including a lot of end-of-life cases where people are struggling and they're managing through fatal diagnoses. We simply added silica to their diets. And we list that inside of our community portal, which is free, our app. We have a supplement tab. It tells you how to use each one, where to get it. We don't even require you get it from us. We want you to just have it and get it and start taking it, because once you start putting the silica in your body, and diatomaceous earth will also clean out the parasites and exfoliate the inside of your GI tract. Once you start doing that, your body will start absorbing minerals and then vitamins again. It balances your hormones. It sets everything off right. So Power Kirk is fantastic, and we have that one in our fascial foundation product. It has the diatomaceous earth and a patented form of ashwagandha. But I don't want people to think you have to buy from us. You can get a 20-pound bag of that of diatomaceous earth for like $30. It'll last you for like 10 years.
Great. Well, that's good information. The mission of IAN is really to change health and happiness in the world by creating health coaches that have an amplification effect and go out and change the health and happiness of the world. And that's why we're so happy to do lives and partner with you, Gary, because you're doing such great work. And it really is about helping and healing people at a time where you don't know really who to trust in the world because everybody's trying to make a buck. So thank you for what you're doing. Before we go, can we do a vagus nerve reset?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Let's do that together.
Okay, let's do it together.
Okay,
Back up a little bit more.
Yeah, you can do it seated too.
Okay, can I do it seated or do I have to stand up?
Yeah, you can do it seated. Go ahead.
Okay.
But if you're standing, you can do it standing. So usually you want to find, you're going to have one trap that's out and more agitated usually, whichever that one. Most people, it's going to be the left trap. It's my left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push into the trap. I'm going to turn the skin. I'm going to take my left hand, put it on the jaw. I'm going to push my jaw to the right. Now, for you in the chair, you're just going to turn your body to the right. And if you're standing, you're going to turn your body to the right and squat and look up. And then breathe 6 times. Breathe into the mouth. 2, 3, through the nose. 2, 3. And of course that release, that's it. And you can do that both sides, but typically the reason why you're doing that is because your shoulder girdle, one side's like this fascial tissue and the muscles start to pull the ribs out. And that rib right here, second rib here, and the first rib back here, if that goes out, it pulls you into fight or flight. So it's not only your vagus nerve, which is disrupted, and I get this all the time, that's not where the vagus nerve goes. And I'm like, yeah, it goes, look at the vagus nerve is going to go, it goes up through here, it goes up into here, and goes in there. So what we're doing is we're releasing all the fascia in that generalized area, and that's why it works. Super powerful.
I love it. Thank you so much, Gary. I'm Jim Curtis, Jim Curtis 1 from IN, here to bring you value. Of course, I find people in the world that are doing tremendous things, and Human Garage is definitely one of them. Gary, thank you so much for joining today, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Appreciate you and what you're doing. You guys are doing fabulous work. Keep it up. Lots of our people are recommending health coaching that comes through your institute. Looking forward to this partnership too. Super excited about working with you guys.
Thanks, Gary. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.